Hi everyone, Edison Vasquez at Comber. I hope everyone is doing well. Thanks for following us. Today we are discussing tips for landlords when signing a new lease with a new company or a company that doesn't have a long credit financials. Landlords dream of landing a large tenant for 10, 20 years, national credit tenant. However, a lot of times landlords have to work with new companies or companies who don't have a long credit history yet. Although risky, it can also be an opportunity for landlords if the company grows and expands exponentially and acquires more space within the landlord's building. So here are some tips that we have learned for our negotiations for landlords to consider when leasing space to new companies. Number one, you can start from the beginning and limit the concessions. So we're negotiating a lease with a new company, consider limiting concessions, limiting the build out, and limiting free rent. So if a tenant needs build out, offer limited build out or limited free rent so that the tenant has more responsibility when they occupy the space, so they have to pay for their own build out or their own improvements and less free rent. So that limits the risk of the landlord in case something happens with the tenant. Number two, very important, extra security deposit. We have seen an increase in security deposits from an extra month to 4, 5, even 6 months, depending on the size, depending on the company, and every deal is different. So landlords should adjust the security deposit to compensate for the risk. So increase the security deposit by an extra month or a few months, depending on the size of the space and the company, whatever the landlord feels more comfortable and is acceptable by the tenant. This will limit the risk during the lease term and will make the landlord comfortable and will make the deal overall. One thing too on the extra security deposit, what we have seen is if the tenant provides a higher security deposit, there's a 3, 4, 5, 6 months, some of that security deposit can be credited or returned to the tenant after 1, 2, 3, 4 years that the tenant has been paying rent. There's not a lot of landlords credit that extra security deposit once the tenant is performing and is doing well during the lease term. Number three is a personal guarantee or a letter of credit. We have negotiated leases where there has been a personal guarantee, very few here and there, but it's possible. So landlords, if there's a specific space that requires a lot of build out, a lot of investment, or it's a high risk, the tenant should consider putting a personal guarantee, at least limited or for at least the term of the lease, that can make the landlord confident and make the deal happen. Also, in that same note, a letter of credit could be sufficient to secure the lease, or instead of a personal guarantee, a lot of landlords require a letter of credit from the bank, from the tenant's bank, that can help minimize the gap and reduce the risk. Last but not least, limit the lease terms and renewal options. So when we're negotiating a lease, consider limiting the lease term, the initial lease term. If the tenant wants 5, 10 years, consider doing 3 years with one option, or just a 3-year with minimal options, or a 5-year with one option instead of doing 10 years with another 10-year option. So that limits your risk, and if the tenant is doing well, you can still renew their space, or they can still renew the lease whenever the lease expires after 5 or 7 years, whenever the lease is. So those are simple things that landlords can do to minimize the risk, yet bring the new company into the building and hopefully take advantage of the exponential growth that this tenant might have over the next couple of years. Hope this helps. As always, our team, our experts are in the leasing and sales of industrial space. We're happy to help you with any questions. You can reach us, visit our website, warehousesmarket.com, for more information. Thanks for following us. Take care. Be safe.